Hello and welcome to EoK Podcast. This is episode 230. Our guest today is Mr. Ryan Kelly, founder of iSpotLight. I'd like to thank our wonderful sponsors for providing the space that we're in, Pershing Yoakley & Associates. They also provide us bandwidth that we're consuming massive amounts of. And I would like to thank our sponsors, Ludica Neely Group, who give us cold, hard cash, which is really cool because we need lots of cold, hard cash. And Neighborhood Nerds, who also provides us with money. And Fair Mechanics, fairmechanics.com, online for your next repair need. Just put your car on there, add your repair need, and the area mechanics will come in and provide estimates for that repair. Then you can pick the best mechanic based on distance from you, price, and star rating. fairmechanics.com. All right. Thanks for being here today, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brother, it's been great. I met Ryan at our last pub night, which is always a good time to meet anyone, right? I mean, he's a good-looking guy, but he looked better after a few beers. And he was much more entertaining.
Be careful about the next time you show up at.
And then we went to Angel Capital Group together, and we each did our practice pitching in front of the Angels at the last Angel Capital Group meeting. And Ryan's story about iSpotLight was just incredible. I mean, it just sounds like a really cool service. One reason I think that it's so cool is I thought of it a long time ago, but I didn't. You know, like those guys that always say, "Oh, I thought of that," like the wrench that ratchets and stuff. My dad came up with that one a couple of years after it had been invented. That was my idea. So I saw iSpotLight, and I thought, whenever I'd been talking to Frank Podlaha a few years back, before Flipboard came out, I said, you know what, it'd be really cool because you're just getting covered up with all this information that comes at you. So you're following your friends on Facebook, you're following people on Twitter, you follow people on LinkedIn. I mean, you have all of these networks that are just throwing data at you. And you have these champions that you think, those are the really cool people I would like to keep track of, but you kind of lose them in the noise of everything. So even a Flipboard where you try to tweak it a little bit, and it's kind of a cool app, it doesn't really provide what I was looking for. It's like this aggregated data of these personalities that I really wanted to track and follow and see what's going on with them. And then I saw iSpotLight, and I was like, dude, that's it. That's a cool looking app. That's exactly what I was thinking. So I'm going to be a first customer whenever you get it going.
Perfect. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about you. You and I talked a little bit. You grew up in Knoxville?
I grew up in Knoxville. Born in Memphis, but lived there for 8 months. So I don't even know if I can really claim that anymore. So grew up in the Rocky Hill area of Knoxville. Live there now. Work there as well. So pretty much come full circle and haven't gone too far in my life, I guess, when you look at the bookends of it. But
well, you said you were a swimmer and swam for KRC?
I did swim for Rocket Club in the summers. Went to Catholic high school, swam at Catholic. Pretty much played any sport under the sun. I'm still very active in athletics. Still enjoy being outside, and that's actually being active in athletics is kind of what drove iSpotLight.
And growing up here, being in sports here, being different schools here, working at Morgan Stanley. I'm sure you're aware of the families and the businesses that are in this area.
Yes.
And you know what it looks like to start a business here.
Yes, very much so.
And you still wanted to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But when it's your business, it's based on you. So it's a make or break. It's your rules, and you're not always playing by somebody else's. So if something doesn't work, it's your fault, and you take ownership of it. And if something does work, hopefully you get a little bit of the credit for it as well. So yeah, the good comes with the bad.
I mean, seriously, this is a difficult place to have a software startup.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I mean, you look at the West Coast, and it's like everybody and their brother seems to come up with an idea, write it down on a cocktail napkin, and there's somebody sitting at the next table saying, "I'll give you $1 million or $2 million or $5 million." And here you say, "Can I get 50,000?"
Yeah.
Are you crazy for a software application? Mm-hmm. Where's your brick and mortar and your staff and everything? So it's a little bit different. But I would think growing up here, and then I didn't grow up here, I moved here later in life. You I would think would have taken advantage of the networking opportunities that you've had all through your life. Like you probably know people from sports, from swimming is a great one for networking. School investments, I would think that you've connected with a lot of people that you can at least bounce your ideas off of for a mentor or an advisor.
Yeah, and we definitely have, and that's one of the reasons we're actually sitting here today is because of that networking. So. We've been very fortunate to have the friends and family that we've had here in town kind of help us along to this point.
And you and Patrick are the founders?
Yes, sir.
And how did the idea of iSpotLight come about?
It actually came about, I played football at UT, and in the midst of trying to get ready for that, I was a scrawny little high school graduate, and in the middle of trying to get ready for football at UT, I started working out with a gentleman here in town, Charlie Patrone. Charlie trains a lot of high-level college and pro athletes, and to this day have still continue to work out with him. Well, being in there working out with him is, I'm not really sure what I'm training for anymore, other than to try to keep up with two little kids, or or to run from somebody if I need to. But several of the guys that are in there have become close friends of mine. Pro baseball players, pro football players, guys coming out of college, going in the draft. And it was kind of out of trying to keep up with them that I was, innocently figured out, hey, in my quest for looking for the news on them, what are they saying on social media? Have they signed their contract? What did they sign it for? Are they excited about where they're going? What stats, are they putting up this year? When are they playing close to Knoxville? How am I going to keep up with some of these guys? I figured out just through my own trial and error, I was going to a lot of different sites trying to find all that stuff, and the time that it took, and that was just for one person.
Yeah.
And then I started saying, I do this for a couple of guys. I hope people aren't, watching how much time I'm wasting here trying to keep up with these guys. And so I was kind of sitting around talking to Patrick one night and said, wouldn't it be a great idea if we could pull all this together and just make it simple to keep up with all these guys, where we could pull their news, their social media, their event calendars, whether it be games or concert schedules or whatever, and pull this all in together. And Patrick said, well, are you familiar with with Flipboard? I said, actually, I'm not. And he said, well, check this out. And so really that was kind of the birth of it. It was this idea of aggregating all this information, and while Flipboard was very much still generic news, they were still trying to filter it down a little bit, but we kind of took the opposite approach to that. Let's get down to the individual side. We want to follow the individuals, the people that we're interested in. How are we going to keep up with them? And so that's kind of how iSpotLight was born.
Now, did you envision it as a web application, or just a mobile app, or what did you?
At first, we kind of envisioned it on everything.
Yeah.
But the more that you look at it, the more everything's going towards mobile. I realize it myself. I'm on my phone all day long. I'm constantly on the go. I have a laptop and an iPad and everything else, but I'm on my. If that was 100% of the time for all sources, 90% of my time's on my phone, constantly on the go. So we felt like the first order of business was to get that out on mobile, just because of how busy everybody is and how quickly people want to look through things. And it's just kind of a great app, like I said, to view things quickly and on the go.
Do either of you have any programming experience in developing?
No, not from a development standpoint.
Okay.
So we've outsourced all the development at this point.
Now, I look at that and think how challenging that must be to two of you come up with an idea for an application, and you're thinking about it. You have to communicate that to a developer. If you're going to outsource it to a developer, I don't even know how you do it if you don't know how to code, because for me, I have to know how to do it before I can outsource it. So
Right.
I want to hear a little bit about how you documented what this thing looks like, and how did you explain it to someone else?
Yeah. So originally, it was just a big idea in my head. I knew what I wanted. I really didn't even, it was kind of one of those things where you tell somebody, here's what I want. I don't know how to tell you how to do it, but can you help me figure it out? And so we have had difficulties with that. Patrick, I'm 31, my brother is 24 at this point. He's really right in the meat of that social media curve, and I notice every year as I get older, the kids that are younger know more and more about technology. So he's really he's very up to speed on social media and how things should flow and what works and what doesn't work for social media. So he had a lot of great ideas as far as putting the plan together. But really it came down to basically I just was drawing pictures for people and saying, here's what I want it to look like. Here's what I think if we go from this screen to this screen. And obviously those pictures have changed 100 times. But really that was kind of our starting point, was just to draw pictures and say, I'm not really sure how you're going to build this. I know the information that we want in here, and here's how I kind of want it to look. And, you know, however you can help us put that together, we greatly appreciate it. So.
Yeah. Because I'm on the other side a lot of times developing user interfaces for my clients. And it's always frustrating to me because they say they don't really know what they want, but they know what they don't like when they see it.
Right.
So they're kind of explaining it to you, and you build it, and then you lay it in front of them, and they go, no, not that, not that, not that. And you're like, okay. So you build another one, you know, and you show it to them, and they're like, no, not that, not that.
Well, and we've been building.
Iterative.
Yeah, we've had interim releases all throughout the process, and so all along we've been able to say from the very beginning, small tweaks. So they haven't built one big product for us, and then we have to scrap the whole thing. They've kind of built it along, built the skeleton up. We change a few things, they add a few layers, we change those, and so really the process has really been somewhat painless. I mean, obviously there's always problems that will arise, things that we wanted to have in there that just don't make sense, but for the most part we've been fortunate, and no massive problems to this point.
Okay. And you know, financing for that whole front end, how did you do that? How did you get the initial capital you needed to just get it off the ground?
Savings, putting most of it in ourselves from Patrick and I, as well as you know, we've been fortunate. Family and some close friends have bought into the idea and helped fund it along. This has been a little more of a complex app than just building a normal day-to-day app, so it's been pretty expensive in the process, and so we've put in as many funds as we can, and we are quickly depleting those, and so the whole process we've been constantly trying to raise money, so that it's almost in two phases, and I know Eric Dawson said in a previous meeting, you're always 3 to 6 months out raising capital, and so I feel like we're already raising money from on two levels, one to finish the development, and two from development through operations. So constantly talking to people, and always got, as working for Morgan Stanley currently, it's, the ABC will always be closing, so I'm always out there looking for money.
And selling the idea to people, to investors, telling them the story is a piece of it, right? Like, I would love to be able to track people like this, and I think it'd be cool and it'd be really helpful to me. But they're probably sitting on the edge of the seat going, okay, how do we make money? How do we make money? So what's the revenue model for iSpotLight?
Well, it's part of the revenue model was.
Has it changed from the beginning to now? Or?
A little bit, simply because of some of the things we've added to it has allowed for opportunities. But part of our formatting was to allow for some unique advertising models in it. A lot of mobile apps these days are looking for how are we going to generate ads in this, and put ads in here that are not overlooked, because we've all seen it in any app. There's banner ads, and it creates sight blindness. Where not to look on a page because you're going to see that ad. And so how can you incorporate advertising? And so with the structure of page flipping and everything else, it almost has a magazine or media guide like feel to it, where you can put full page ads into the middle of it, just like you'd be flipping through a Sports Illustrated article, and you turn the page and it's a full page ad of LeBron James in there, or whoever it may be.
So it's almost like product placement. Like
product
instead of interrupting you and saying
exactly.
Here's an ad, it's just part of the experience.
Exactly. And so we have that. We have the advertising in there. We also have revenue sharing models with, from the music side of things. You can download music from iTunes. We have ticket sales through SeatGeek. So if there's a concert or or a game or an event that's associated with any of the people that you're following, you can buy tickets right there through the app. And then right now it's really on the athlete side, but any of the league shops that provide merchandise, whether it be jerseys or hats or t-shirts or posters or whatever, we have that. And so future plans are to create a direct marketing or direct sales group for some of the individuals that don't have league shops. Your Shaun White's of the world has a massive product line, from snowboards to clothing lines and everything else. And that presents an opportunity to work directly with them to sell stuff. So we have in-app sales as part of it. And then obviously with the amount of traffic and the different social media and news media and everything else, we have the ability to track a lot of information as to how are people spending their time. They're spending their time on news, they're spending their time on social media, and so a lot of user analytic data as well. And then lastly, we have some promotional stuff. So we can feature certain contacts, whether they be featured athletes or featured musicians, and even future plans to add companies onto the list. So if a local company wants to promote their own page where somebody can follow their Twitter and their news and everything else, we can promote that page and charge a cost for that. All in all, that's great. So there's recurring revenue from the system, but the true value comes from an exit strategy. Yeah. And as you've seen with a lot of other either news aggregation or mostly apps that have a social media tied to them, the valuations are outrageous, and usually the kind of the sweet spots in that 2 to 3 year range. And so, we continuously work feverishly for that.
Yeah. For me, that's the one that's like kind of strange, is the valuation of a software app, a startup, because you look at it and say, you start generating some revenue and you calculate it one way, kind of like this traditional way of saying, okay, well, it's bringing in this much a month, it's kind of got this kind of growth, and then over an annual, and then maybe, you hear numbers all over the place too, of like 10 times, 25 times, like crazy numbers on software valuation.
Well, and you look at, Instagram was bought by Facebook for $1 billion without having earned a dime of revenue. Right. They sold after about 2 years.
They're actually burning money like just this.
And continuously have not pulled, and even since the purchase haven't brought in any money. Right. Snapchat, another social media app, which is another picture app that's just recently come out. They started April 2011. They haven't earned a dime of revenue at this point. They just raised $60 million on an $800 million pre-money valuation about a month ago. So the numbers on social media are outrageous, and even you rewind back to August of last year, Flipboard had been out for just over 2 years at that point, had 5 million users, 2 billion clicks per month, and were valued at 200 million. We fast forward a couple months ahead now, they're at 50 million users after having rolled out on Android, after having released their Flipboard 2.0 version. So I haven't seen the valuations at this point, but if they've gone from 2 billion clicks per month to 6 billion at this point, I'd say their valuations probably jumped up quite a bit as well. Now they actually do have some revenue, some advertising revenue, but for the most part, the valuations on all these software and social media based platforms are outrageous.
Yeah, because I love a revenue model. I like one that's making money somehow, like out of the gate. But these exits, these guys that are buying them, they don't even seem like they care about the revenue. All they care about are the eyeballs that are in the system. Yep. The number of users that are there that they can acquire.
Right. Well, and I guess you think about it, if you use Twitter as kind of a yardstick, and you've heard me say this before, if you use Twitter as a yardstick for who's following what, the top 3 news organizations on Twitter, it's CNN Breaking News or New York Times, they have an average of 10 million followers each. If you look at the top 3 individual celebrities, they have an average of 40 million followers each. So you can see how general news organization would say, hey, look, here's a way for us to increase the eyeballs on our page by 30 million viewers. Right. Whether that be for their own advertising dollars outside of that, an indirect, hey, we get more users, we got more people looking at our page, it's more advertising dollars, or however they want to make money on it. But, so we actually fall in line with providing a great service to any kind of aggregation vehicle, whether it be a Google or a Yahoo or a Bing or somebody like that, but also for a Disney who owns ESPN and ABC. That's your music entertainers and athletes all right there. Even a general news organization like a New York Times or somebody else who says, how can we increase eyeballs on our site? Here we have 10 million followers already following general news. If we can provide more of a direct line to the individual, we can increase those numbers.
I see people trying to do it all the time. They're taking the existing tools and trying to tweak them, filter them, use lists, whatever, to get that aggregated content about those few that they want to monitor.
Right. And
because they want to see, like, when is my musician going to be in town or
right.
close to town? When is my comedian going to be in town or close to town? What do they think about these products that they're using?
Well, but they've built such a big ship at this point. It's hard to turn the Titanic, and so because of
and they don't seem like they're interested in.
What they've got works,
yeah.
And they're making substantial money, and to add something else and to change their MO would be a very hard thing for them to do, and so that makes it another thing where they say, hey, rather than us change what we're doing, we can simply buy something, and whether it be a subsidiary or something else.
Have you guys thought about a crowdfunding like a Kickstarter?
Yes, we have. We actually thought about
something like this. We're building it.
Mm-hmm. We actually thought about Kickstarter, one for raising some funds, but also for trying to get the name out there as much as possible. But we wanted to be very cautious about how we've done that. One, we didn't want to let the cat out of the bag too early about what we were doing, and then two, we wanted to be very careful about what we were trying to raise, because if you go out there and you say, hey, we want to raise $50,000, and you raise $49,000, and it looks like a failed project,
right.
Because you didn't raise the money, and then you don't get any of it. And so what we wanted to be careful of was not to put something out there that, even though in the grand scheme of things, $49,000 raised would be a success, but if you don't get it, and then you've got anything on the internet's public, and you then look like you've got a failed project.
Well, something I'd love to see, and I posted it last night. I was talking about some things of, I'd like to see some Kickstarter projects from Knoxville get funded, other than somebody making an album, or something like that. I mean, like a software app.
Well, and part of the
It'd be cool, like if we could use EoK and a network of people to say, okay, we want this one to get funded. Everybody understand? We want this one to get funded.
Well, and part of the crowdfunding is, right now there's no equity given away, but they want you to give something away. And so at this point, what do you give away from a software startup other than, hey, you can beta test it, early release it, whatever. Hey, we can build a page for you and feature you if we. But a lot of the times it's people writing books, making albums, and they say, hey, look, you help us build this, we'll put you in the album cover, or we'll send you an early copy of the CD or something like that. So right now, crowdfunding seems to be primarily based around products.
Austin Church, he's a member of the EoK.
I actually had lunch with him a couple weeks ago.
He feels like he has a recipe for success for Kickstarter projects.
Yeah.
Like the video, the right write-up, the 30% funding within the first 7 days, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's like this recipe to make it work, and I would like to see that kind of.
Yeah, we actually had lunch with him not too long ago discussing that very thing.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. All right, well, I did want to open it up to questions because I know Carlos has been jumping up and down.
My first question to you is, have you done anything to protect the idea at all?
We're working right now on trademarking, name and name, logo, all that kind of stuff. And we actually had a meeting yesterday, and several meetings over the last couple of weeks, looking at some patent work. Right now, a lot of it's just idea, so there's no true business process in place, and some of the stuff at this point is not truly patentable. And so one of the other things is, on top of that, the cost of patents at this point. You know, our money's probably best served getting this thing built. We could spend a lot of money going out and getting patents and then not have anything, you know, not be backing it up on anything. And so right now, our two biggest priorities, priority one is getting the thing built. Priority 1.1 is probably not even priority 2. It's following closely behind is marketing, because we could, you know, we spent a lot of money building this thing. If we could build this thing, roll it out there, and if we don't have the users, all that money was spent in vain. And so right now we're really focusing on getting it built, getting the name out there. But patents or any kind of protectionary issues is something we're very aware of, and we're constantly working on just trying to make sure we do it efficiently.
But you've kept up with your documentation right from the beginning.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge documentation nerd, so I've got everything saved in email, saved in archives, printed in folders. I've backed up just about everything. So.
And what are you doing about marketing?
We're working with some local PR groups right now.
Traditional marketing?
Yes, I mean, pretty much all forms of marketing. So we're looking at digital and print media, pre-launch releases and launch releases. We've talked with local bloggers, tech bloggers, sports, music, entertainment bloggers, companies like Mashable and TechCrunch and Wired and all them, looking to have them write stuff on us. You know, we'll have, at some point we'd like to get into some of these trade shows like a Southland or South by Southwest and stuff like that. That's probably a little bit down the road.
So it sounds like we're trying to use a lot of the social media to market yourself.
And definitely social media.
But you're also going to use the traditional media.
Yeah.
And that's very expensive.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we're going to try to utilize social media as best we can because of the cost efficiency of it. You know, a good deal of the money that we're looking to raise is going to that more expensive traditional marketing.
When did you start working on this?
The idea came up probably last October, and we went through talking about it and what if we did this and what if we did this for a good period of time, and finally we just said, all right, no more talking about this. We could talk about this for years and somebody else is going to end up doing this. We said we got to start getting something down. We can evolve as we go. And so we actually started, we put the partnership together in January, started working with some of the developers around March.
The reason I ask is EoK, the University of Tennessee, Anderson Center, and the Junior Chiba, we put on a camp for Empowered Teen Entrepreneurship camp last week at UT. And we had Stephen Adams from the Vanilla Cup, and he was telling us about intellectual property.
Right.
And the fact that, you have a year, from the time you start everything, before you have to worry about patents and other kind of trademarks and everything. So by having it emailed and you have things set up, you protect yourself.
Yeah, and like I said, I've held on to every email that's been sent in or out for those very purposes.
That's good.
You were talking about your financial model, your revenue model. How about a subscriber model? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, we
It's
thought.
a serious service you're providing.
Yeah, we thought about that. We talked about, here you can have the free model and it would have advertising and everything in it, and you can pay a premium model and not have all the advertising. But from the value of, as Leo said, having the eyeballs on the app, we felt like it was better to give it away for free, get as many users, because the exit strategy value is so much larger than the revenue stream, the interim revenue stream model, that it would be worth having 20 million followers all for free and selling the app in a future round than having 2 million followers and be making $1 or $5 per download.
Can you help me understand that? Because I hear what you're saying, I'm following it, but so you're concentrating on getting the numbers up for eyeballs on the screen. But for somebody buying it, they're buying it because they think they can ad and charge higher for
The-
the ads, or how are they?
No, I guess, the reason a Facebook or Google or anybody would buy it is simply for the eyeballs. And again, I don't know, it's hard for me to say why exactly they're buying it at those values, other than that's just kind of the market rate of some of these right now. As I said, a lot of apps that have been purchased do not have any revenue streams associated with them. I mean, they haven't made the first dime of revenue, and they're being acquired for massive amounts of money.
So is it sort of like the old-fashioned marketing loss leader at a grocery store? They sell it for 10 cents, it costs them 20 cents to originally purchase it, but then it brings all the people in the store to buy other things? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I mean, I think the average cost per user of acquisition is like anywhere between $1.50 to $10. I don't know if that comes into their valuation.
Jason Calacanis, I've heard him say in the podcast before about the value of one user. You ever heard that? Like in advertising, it's like $100 or something. I mean, it's like per user to get your valuation. Like they have
Yeah, and they actually even Google I've seen has, like, Google and Twitter and some of the bigger groups have put values on their users up into the thousands of dollars.
Yeah, because they can it's just another channel where they can be in front of someone. And if they know more about them, know what they really like, they can be more targeted on that advertising. It's just more money for them. Because they're,
pay a higher premium.
yeah, because they charge all of us, right, to run ads for our products and services in front of those eyeballs. And we want to be as granular as possible of that consumer, that target consumer that buys our stuff. So we go to Google and say, we really want to be in front of someone using iSpotLight that tracks Harry Connick Jr., and they say, okay, well, that's $1,000 a day, or whatever.
I just have a question. So, iSpotLight would allow you to follow specific, just individuals and or like a whole team or a whole sport?
We're trying to start it kind of on the opposite end of the general news right now. So we'll start with individuals, but we have plans going forward to build out company profiles, team profiles, maybe like demographic grouping or event profiles. So, was it 2012 when all the tornadoes came through and there was a lot of relief efforts, and there was a lot of news out there, whether it be on Twitter or just in the general news, people wanting to keep up with, how can we help or what's going on there. So we could create a page for Tornado 2012 and pull in all the Twitter handle feeds and market that directly to somebody who wants to follow that specific event, rather than trying to search through all the general news to say, where can I find this? And like I said, I mean, we do it already. We go to Google and we type it in, and then we go to the New York Times and we look it up, or we go to ESPN and try to find news. We look for schedules or stats or anything else. So we're already doing the work. It's just the fact that we go through 10 layers of work rather than just having it fed directly to us.
Yeah, it's just a lot of work, because you're like you create a list for somebody on Twitter, you get on Google Plus and you look for hashtags and users, groups of users, circles. But I mean, this just seems what we're all trying to force these tools to do. This is going to come out of the box providing.
Yeah, and there's been over the last several years, because of the Googles, because of the Facebooks, there's so much great communication out there. We're not trying to change the environment. We're not trying to build something else that allows further communication. We're just simply trying to filter the communication down, because there's just so much of it. And it's all great, but there's just a lot of it to keep up with now.
Right.
So have you thought about like marketing it to the individuals so that it would be something that they could offer their fans? Like, I know that, there's a big increase right now in like the whole fan relations and increasing the fan base for, I'm more on an individual level as opposed to like a whole team. But there are a lot of sports that are more individual, like NASCAR, things like that,
Right.
where some of those individuals would benefit from, especially if they're new to a sport, benefit from getting themselves out there more to increase basically the eyeballs that are on them. And like, hey, look at me, yeah, I'm not a superstar yet, but how can I become more popular?
Right.
So,
Well, and that's a very good point. We always think about this from the user standpoint. Hey, this is going to be great for me because I can follow all these people. So I actually approached several of the pro athletes that I work out with and said, how do you guys feel about this? Because not that it, like I said, we're not doing anything new, but it's still kind of almost somewhat of an invasion of privacy. You're constantly
Right.
following, but the stuff's already out there. So I asked them, I said, how do you all feel about this app? How would this help you all? And they said, truthfully for them, they love it. This is a way for them to further brand themselves to their fans, for them to connect with them, and it's also a way for them to keep in touch with each other. What's the other one saying in an interview? Where is the other one? How can they show team unity? What can they do to reach out even more than they already are? So it almost is a way for them to help brand themselves a little further and make their own value a little
Right.
higher.
And so, I guess in some ways, this would allow them to kind of have their own app of some sort. I guess it could kind of go the other way too. Like where you're doing more of this aggregation for multiple people.
Right.
That those individuals could have on the flip side something that they can then say, hey, just go to iSpotLight
Yeah.
and pull me up, and then.
And that's what we're working with a lot of them on, is part of the marketing, is because they already have so many fans following them on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. So that's a great resource for them as well. But for them to say, hey, keep up with, one of the things is we're trying to roll this out right before football season, as there's a lot of buzz going on with football coming up. And for them to say, hey, keep up with me this year on iSpotLight, or see all that's going on this year on iSpotLight. So it's just a way for them to further, one, it helps us, obviously, but two, it helps themselves as well.
I wonder if the conversations would be better, like from the person that you're following, because right now they're speaking to the entire world. Even though there's a group following them, there's a bunch of people, maybe 1 million people, they're still posting something that may not be important to 100 million people that are out there on the same platform. This way, it would be your fans are the only ones. It's like this, one
it's
to
just
all
like,
these people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like if I'm watching an event, like if I'm watching a UFC fight and I pull up the hashtag for, UFC 163 and have that on my, that column on my phone while I'm watching it, I can see just what people are posting on Twitter, for instance, about that. And then I might see something that I want to share or laugh at or whatever, comment on. But it does make it, I think those kind of things are a better experience because you kind of feel like you're there.
Right.
So for the individual sports people, they can see what people have to say about them, or they could just go and, here's all the, they could see their Twitter feed, like they could see it somewhere else maybe, but they might just be able to see, all of their mentions, which hopefully would increase over time. But then they could kind of respond in a different way.
Right.
Whereas, and some of them may not be as savvy about the whole social media aspect.
Right.
But then they could also see like, oh, hey, there was an article in the, on ESPN.com, someone wrote about me, and they might not even necessarily know it's there.
Yeah.
Because some of those lower level sports people, they don't have PR people, someone combing the web for them. So I really think that they would be beneficial for you to get on board. Go to those people before you try and go to the ones up here, because you can show that you've grown the fan base of some lower up-and-comers. That's going to mean a lot more than, oh, hey, so-and-so, Jeff Gordon saw that he has an iSpotLight profile.
Right.
Yeah.
We have time for maybe a couple more questions.
So if I go to iSpotLight and it's not a person or, football player or anything like that, what if I want to follow a company?
Well,
Do that too?
if the company doesn't exist in the database yet, one, you could always email us and let us know, and we can build it out. And so, right now what we'll probably just do, and like most apps do, you roll out an initial version, you get feedback on it, and you always enhance it. And one of the things on top of that is, in the app world, you're always having to kind of innovate. And so we've got some additional bullets in our back pocket that we're kind of hanging on to that will continue to innovate the product and continue to push it forward. But we'll push it out for individuals only. And, at first it's probably going to be, it'll be sports, music, and entertainment. It'll be a very significant list, but there may be a music star that you follow that's not on the list just
So we
yet.
can follow Catholic high school football?
At some point, yeah. And so, what we can do is, as we build this, we'll continue to incorporate, like I said, other events and companies. But if there ever is a particular person, or like you're talking about, if an up and coming artist says, "Hey, I really need to get some exposure here. I'm a young kid out of Nashville or Knoxville or whoever. I'm a kid out of Knoxville and I can't compete with the guys coming out of Nashville right now. I need some exposure." They could contact us and say, "Hey, can you put something together for me?" We could build something that would pull in, any blog mention of them, any news article of them, any of their Twitter feeds, and pull it all in together, and then feature them on the app. So on the contact list, where you can search for, through all contacts, you can search through the most popular ones in our app universe, or we can administratively push a featured contact to say, "Hey, follow such and such person. This is an up and coming artist."
Thank you.
Have you met with Matt Tunstall?
I met him at Pub Night the other night. I think that's the first time.
Well, for you guys that don't know, Matt Tunstall, stalltalk.net, he has an incredible platform where he uses porta potties at large events, wraps them in this beautiful graphics. It'd be awesome for iSpotLight, like at football games, at concerts, everywhere. And he's in like 20 states or something now, or maybe more than that now.
That's cool.
So while people are standing there.
You can charge them.
That's right.
I had a question on timing, but I'm going to back up because of the question you just answered. So it's my understanding that it's not as interactive as I thought it was going to be. I can put in Nicole Kidman, and if she's not in your database, I don't get anything. Is that right?
Well, Nicole Kidman would be on there, but yeah, if you put in Ryan Kelly's not going to be on there. So it's not going to be completely worldwide because we have to be.
Choose who's going to be on
You're
there.
not putting yourself on there?
Maybe not yet.
That'd be the first person.
Yeah,
You're afraid of
I'll be the first featured
You're afraid of
contact.
stalking?
Yeah. So
Who did, somebody, was it? It wasn't Zuckerberg. Well, Zuckerberg was like that, but the Twitter guy, Ed.
It's our first tweet or something.
Yeah. Everybody followed him.
iStalker, that's a different.
Help me understand this, because the way I understood it was you put in, famous figure's name in there, and then your software would go up, aggregate all the information.
Well, we've created a database that will have that will match up names with Twitter handles and with news and any other social media feed. But what we have to be careful of is if you search for LeBron James and you're wanting to make sure that you're reading an article about LeBron James, the basketball player, you don't want to be pulling in. It's like if you go to Google and you type in LeBron James, you might end up with, insurance agent in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's true.
And what we don't want to do is you don't want to be sitting there scrolling through, looking at LeBron James or Nicole Kidman and whoever, and then all of a sudden just start pulling in random YouTube videos or random news about the people that you're not really intending to follow. And so, our purpose for that is to make it as clean as possible. The list will be pretty extensive. I doubt there's going to be a whole lot of people that you can't find on there, but we're continuously building that database and enhancing it.
And Victoria had a question.
Go
I have my real question. Just give a second. And it's concerning timing. Your idea came up in October, you started the app in January? Was it January?
Well, we started development in March.
In March. You want to be up and running by football season, and in the meantime, you have to finish your development, you have to get all the marketing in line.
Development will be done in a week.
Really?
And we've already been working on a lot of the marketing, so we have a lot of stuff already pretty much preset and ready to go.
But the marketing requires money, so you need more capital.
I mean, we're always going to need more marketing. I mean, it's not going to be where we market it, write it, pre-launch and launch, and then we're done. Hopefully we get thousands of users right off the bat, but the intent's to have tens of millions of users, and so in order to get that, I mean, it's just going to be a constant marketing push.
That's your biggest burn.
Yeah,
is
okay.
advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Victoria.
I just wanted to comment on what Lisa was talking about, because as I think Donna was mentioning about members, or somebody was saying about members in their iSpotLight. And I think that it would be prestigious if you could get some of these top athletes to be members of your website and actually pay you as a member, like they were saying that they, or the upcoming ones could become members and pay you membership fees so you can sponsor their popularity, so to speak. And that would be a source of really a lot of funding for you actually, and credibility too.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We've talked about that. We've talked pretty extensively with a lot of our friends that are athletes. And it's actually funny. We were at dinner with one of them one night, and in the midst of trying to tell them what all we were doing, we had 3 different people come up to the table at 3 different occasions, asking them to sponsor a golf tournament or to come to some fundraiser for them. And I was thinking, here it is, a very close friend of ours, and we can't even ask him to help us because he's got everybody else in this world asking him for help. And so what we don't want to do is continuously bash some of our, especially our close friends, over the head because they get taken advantage of for this kind of stuff all the time. What we've kind of relied on them to do at this point is to just help promote our name, and whether that be through their social media as well, or just talking to teammates of theirs or whoever and say, hey, will you all help us, promote this? Right now, that's just what we're asking them to do. So we're not just, hey, you all have money, give us some, like everybody else is asking them to do. So we want to be careful of that. But it is another thing where, we can say, just as we were talking about earlier, if it's an up and coming athlete, they don't have, or a musician or whoever, they don't have a whole lot being written on them at the time. They don't have a whole lot of followers, or not as well known at this point. Absolutely, that's part of that featured or promotional aspect that we're talking about. We can rely on them to say, hey, look, for a price, we can feature you on the app and push you out there to more and more people, so that you're seen more regularly instead of kind of falling to the bottom of that list. And so, yeah, that is definitely one thing that we've talked about.
Do you just get permission from people to put them on?
No, I mean, this stuff's already out there. Yeah, and we're just consolidating it for them.
Have you talked to any, have you talked to any like sports agencies or record labels?
I've talked to very briefly, like I said, I'm trying to be careful about who we're talking to, but I've talked very briefly to a couple of sports agents. And then they've been very big on it. It helps them keep up with the athletes that they've got.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Josh ask one question. And then we need to shut it down because it's 10:03 right now, and we'll wrap it up. Can you stick
Yeah,
around?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so from what I've gathered, the majority of your communication is inbound, in that you're aggregating information from other places.
Right.
Have you guys thought about any sort of outbound communication that would exist from the app? And the reason I say this is because the instant Netflix gave users the ability to share the movies that they're watching, they turned their first profitable quarter in 3.
Right. So what we'll have the ability to do is just like with any other app or anything else, you can share articles. We have a function on there that you can, almost like a Facebook, where you give it a thumbs up or a like. It's called a spotlight. So if you spotlight it, the more articles that are spotlight, or the more spotlights that article has, there's a spotlight section, so you can see like what articles or tweets, videos, whatever, have been followed the most. But at this point, you can share anything. You can retweet, you can share share a news article, share a video, whether it be through text messaging or back through Twitter, back through Instagram, back through Facebook. As far as true user interaction within the app, we haven't set that up yet, but that's another.
If you want to talk about that,
Yeah,
I've got some experience in that area.
I would love to talk to you about it because that is something that we would like to include at some point, but we want to be careful about. We don't want to get so many lines crossed that the app becomes too complicated and it's too hard to use. But a more in-app social aspect is something that we've kind of gotten to work. So,
All right, well, Ryan, thank you very much for being here today.
thank you all.
This has been the EoK Podcast, episode 230. Our guest today was Ryan Kelly with iSpotLight. His brother and co-founder, Patrick Kelly, will join us at some point, I'm guessing.
Yes.
To get his take on everything. Too.
Absolutely.
See how it is working with Big Brother.
Yeah, we will each have our own contacts, and that way, hopefully, our stories will line up in iSpotLight.
So check out iSpotLight.com, Twitter, iSpotLight app.
iSpotLight app.
iSpotLight app on Twitter, follow them. And follow us online at EoK Town. Thanks.